Hello and welcome to Hybrid powered by chinkseyMEDIA. Yazim Yasser. Yeah, man. We're back once again for every word from Arteta's pre-Olympiacos presser. Following our victory over Newcastle United 2 days ago, Mikel Arteta is back in front of the press ahead of our Champions League clash against Olympiacos. We started off our Champions League campaign with a win over Athletic Club in Bilbao and now host the Greek champions at the Emirates Stadium tomorrow, October the 1st. On William Saliba signing a new contract. Yes, big news. Very happy. Congratulations to William. Fully deserves his new contract. His contribution to the club, to the team, has been phenomenal the last few years, and very happy to keep the spine of the team with us. Yeah, I mean, the news broke last week. It's not come as much of a surprise, but obviously, like I mentioned in one of the press conferences last week, I think it was the Port Vale pre-match. Once Arsenal announce it, then it's announced. But until that's done, then it's all speculation, I guess. But no, William Saliba has committed his next 5 years to Arsenal Football Club. So he will be playing for the club until at least 2030. And yeah, good luck to him. And hopefully he can be a major part in us lifting honours starting from this season. On our players believing they can win trophies here and committing futures to us. Oh, I just alluded to that. Yes, first of all, that they feel that they belong to this club. They feel very attached to it and they share the same ambition with the club. And obviously they feel valued. They feel loved here. And they want to continue their careers here, which is great. Yeah, I mean, like Arteta alluded to earlier, the spine of the team have pretty much all renewed their contracts. I think the next one due is obviously Bukayo Saka, and then probably from next year, probably looking at Declan Rice renewing terms. Because we've got the likes of Odegaard, Gabriel, Saliba, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Wanyeri, all tied to long-term contracts. And yes, looking good. All our key players have obviously seen the potential in the side and believe that they can achieve their goals with Arsenal Football Club. On the impact of our late win over Newcastle, well, great energy, obviously. The moment you go in the dressing room, everybody is celebrating, especially because the manner and the way it happened. You have to move on immediately, and you know that we have a very tough match tomorrow against Olympiacos, and I'm ready for it. Yeah, as I mentioned in the previous press match conference analysis, Olympiacos are the top side in Greece, so the Arsenal of Greece. They are used to winning matches. They're used to playing front foot football. I saw that firsthand myself when I watched them on Saturday. They won their game 3-2. So it will be a kind of culture shock to them when they come to the Emirates, where we're playing the front foot, we're dominating the game. They're going to be kind of defending and trying to hit us on the break. So for that reason, I think we're more likely to win, because they're not used to kind of changing their style and having to play pragmatic and tight away from home. They're used to being in the front foot, and that would have been the case even in Piraeus in Athens. If we were to play them there, we would be on the front foot once again, just like we were at Newcastle on Sunday. So yeah, Olympiacos should prove a tough test. They're a half-decent side. They won the Europa Conference League. But no, I fully expect Arsenal to emerge victorious, and by a couple of goals as well. On if everyone is fit and available for Olympiacos, yes, no surprising. Hincapié and Noni are still out, so no news. The rest are all good. Okay, so we've got a relatively fully fit squad. Well, saying that, we've got Havertz out, we've got Jesus out, the forgotten man, Hincapié and Noni. So there's a couple players out, but other than that, there's a fully fit squad, fully fledged squad, a lot of competition for places. I'd like to see people like Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ben White perhaps come in ahead of our game against West Ham, which then punctuates the season because there's going to be an international break. So Arteta might think, all right, let me go my strongest squad these next 2 games. And then obviously we've got the break. So I think that would play a major factor in the team selection. So he might tinker with it a bit, but then again, knowing Arteta, he's not taking any chances, especially in the Champions League. I think he'll pick a team that will be more than likely to win the game. So he'll probably go with a very similar team to the one we saw take the field Sunday. On if Odegaard is fit to start, he was very good. He came on and immediately you could see the desire and the responsibility to get in the game, to try to change it, his decision making, the way he approached every ball, and he made a difference to help us win the game. Okay, that's a remarkable amount of talking about answering the question as a political answer. But yeah, obviously, as if Mikel was going to tell you whether Odegaard will play, but I fully expect him to feature. Whether it be start, that's an interesting question. But yeah, I think Odegaard will play. And if I was to make a prediction to start, I'll say yes. On if there's greater pressure on us in the Champions League this year, well, we have the same ambition, which is to go game by game and try to be better than the opponent, which is very difficult in this competition, and win as many games as we can. Tomorrow, we're going to have a really difficult one. We know how important the home form is going to be to reach in this phase where we want to arrive. And tomorrow, we have the opportunity to start well. So yeah, we got off to a win at Bilbao. We have a few games at home where we're going to be heavy favourites to win. But then there's also one or two games where you're thinking, ooh, games like Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, and Inter Milan, where we've got to be at our best. However, the fixtures that we have against Kairat Almaty, who are playing Real Madrid today, and Olympiacos, we've got to be picking up all 3 points in those games. So yeah, there's no relenting. We have to win tomorrow. Just got to have our mentality right. Take to the field with a good spirit, a good resilience, you know, move the ball fast. Play like anything we did on Sunday, we should win comfortably for me. On being on top of contracts for players, well, I don't know. What I know certainly is that at the end, there are 2 or 3 parties that have come together to an agreement, and with the 3 of them having the same intention and the same will, it's easier to get it done. In these cases, it's been extremely positive. Andrea Berta, the team, and the support that we have from Stan and Josh, especially, make this possible and available, and we are extremely happy to continue this journey with them. Yeah, I think it's been a far cry from what Arsenal used to be, where we would let players' contract run low, run really low to the last 2 years. Last year, leave for free. People like Van Persie, Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, Thierry Henry, to name but a few. But however, we're more proactive these days, you know. Our key players are seeing the project, this project buzzword. They're seeing the project and they're seeing that we are really close. And if you win a trophy with Arsenal, especially given our trophy draw, which will be stretching to now 22 years, as the earliest we can win a league title will be in 2026. So that'll be 22 years. They will go down as legends. We're now actually favourites for the Premier League. Slight favourites, but favourites nevertheless, given our fixtures that we've got coming up against Fulham, Crystal Palace, West Ham, AL. And then Liverpool have to endure a grueling match against Galatasaray tonight, should I say. And then they've got games against Chelsea and Man United coming up. So it will be like, oh, okay. Can Arsenal now put their foot on the gas and really, really, really move the dial, move the needle, and take it to Liverpool and say, right, this season, we mean business. On Mikel speaking to RAF pilots, you're a bit late. That was 2 years ago, so the plane's already gone. I like that metaphor. Yeah, I actually see that today as well. So, okay, so I guess this old news. Okay, less said about that, the better. On if there was any fear that Saliba wouldn't sign the contract, probably more than the length of the contract, it's the will of the player. You can understand that some players have a dream. Some of them is to play in the Premier League. Some of them is to play in the Premier League for Arsenal. Another one can be to play in a different country for a different club, Real Madrid or Barcelona. So you have to respect that. I think we've been really, really lucky, but it shows the power of this football club and how much people love it and want to come here. None of that is happening. Even if they had the possibility to go somewhere else, they wanted to remain here. Okay. That's not the first time he's kind of intimated that other clubs were linked with him and were kind of hovering around him like vultures. So obviously Real Madrid's business plan is to notify a player of their interests, even if they've got 2-3 years of their contract remaining. Let that be known through the press, as they've done for Trent, Mbappe and players like that over the years. And then obviously as they wind down their contracts, they pick them up on a free, giving them a hefty signing on fee, which would effectively replace what would be a hefty transfer fee, but even less. And that's what they've been doing over the years. So it's a remarkable feat that we've actually managed to get William Saliba to sign this long-term contract to stay at the club for the bulk of his career, the nucleus of his career, alongside his compadre, Gabriel Magalhaes, who got the winner on Sunday. So maybe the fact that Dean Huijsen signed for Real Madrid, a young budding defender from Bournemouth, influenced Saliba's decision. However, you could argue that he could play alongside Huijsen. So, but anyway, that signing on of the contract has quelled any speculation, for now at least, that William Saliba will join Los Merengues, on if he was always convinced he would become the player he is now. Well, I think it's a great example to get where you want. There's not a single pathway. It can happen in various ways, in various manners, because when you talk about this pathway, you talk about loans. Well, I think it's a great example to get where you want. There's not a single pathway. It can happen in various ways, in various manners, because when you talk about this pathway, talk about loans. So there's a lot that has happened, a lot that William had to get through, and the club and myself with him as well, to get to the point where he is at today. And that's the beauty of it, that sometimes things don't start the way you expect it, but sometimes it's the best thing that can happen to you to get where you want. Yeah, William Saliba has actually been through a lot, especially in the early genesis of his career. Firstly, he had that scandal with Randall Kolo Muani. Not going to go too much into that. If you know, you know. It's involving a dressing room and a mobile phone. And also, he sadly lost his mother a few years back as well. Not to mention the various loans that he was sent on back to France, where he had to go on loan to teams like Marseille. So he's had to kind of overcome a lot, really. And to get to where he is today, it's testament to his character. And you can see that he's someone that's hungry to thrive and to realize his potential going forward. On if he's aware of the noise around the club in terms of having no excuses, I'm aware the moment I step in this chair that I want with this club is to win major trophies. Nobody else has to put that line into us. That's the ambition from the first day, and the excuses, they've never been part of my life. You know, today I had a thought come through my mind that if Mikel Arteta, let's say, wins us the Premier League or wins us the Champions League, because both would be remarkable feats. I mean, I've already alluded to the fact that we haven't won the Premier League in 22 years. You know, a lot of the fan base haven't seen us win the Prem, or too young to have seen us win the Prem. And then the Champions League, no fan have seen us win the Champions League. So if you win one of them, you go down in history. I was thinking that if Arteta was to win one of those, that would be a mic drop moment. Could he leave? Could he leave? On his first European tie as our manager against Olympiacos, I knew there would be some kind of question on our previous match against them. No, but that's the beauty of football as well. I perfectly remember when we scored the goal, when we conceded the equaliser, the last chance that we had in the last second of the game as well to go through. What happened after that as well, when COVID and everything hit. So part of the journey as well is to get where you are. It's a good example, like Saliba, to get where you want to get. Sometimes you have to go through moments that you probably didn't expect to go through. Okay, shots fired at Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who had an unbelievable effort to win the game, but didn't score it. On how that first year in the job helped him develop. It was a lot to swallow. Jeez, Jesus. Coming into a massive club in the middle of the season when you've never coached a team, I think that's already a big challenge. On top of that, everything that was happening at the football club, COVID hits. You're not able to be in contact with your players or the club, and that drags on for almost 2 years. It's a lot. but it was an experience that I learned a lot from, and I think it made us all better. Yeah, I mean, that season was a tough season. We finished 8th. That was bad times. That period, that was a hard time to be an Arsenal fan. We was dubbed the Banter Club. The clubs, or the fans of the clubs that were dubbing us the Banter Club, have all had worse seasons in recent years. I'll leave it there. On the tunnel being removed at the Emirates Stadium to improve the atmosphere. As a club, we have always had the ambition to generate the best atmosphere in the world at the Emirates Stadium. We have the best supporters in the world, and now we have to facilitate everything. The team has to give the right feelings to our supporters every time we play in front of them. We need to facilitate the stadium in the manner that we want, and we need to ignite the will that we have to play every single goal with us, because it makes such a difference. We want to play and win the things that we want to win. That's a non-negotiable. You need to have a stadium that is able to create those moments for sure. I haven't seen Arteta mention non-negotiable and contexts for a while. So yeah. But yeah, to remove the what's it called? The tunnel was a remarkable decision, because what it means is you're not kind of hidden away. You're not blocked from the raucous atmosphere that the Emirates can generate. It hits you straight away. There's no hiding. Just like when we saw Eze, the fans could see him for longer. Whereas with the tunnel removed, the opponents are going to just be hit with a cauldron. You know, the cauldron's just going to hit them like a ton of bricks. And Olympiacos, yeah, their stadium's also kind of intimidating, but they're gonna be hit with one tomorrow, and I can't wait. I'm gonna be there too. On when he was first aware of the talent Max Dowman has, the first conversation was probably with Per Mertesacker. We were talking about the talent and what he could see and feel that he could reach the level that we needed. Straight away, his name came up, and then we started to look at him and the way he's developed himself and the steps that he's taken and the speed he's taken them. It's probably unheard of. He's fully with us. He's part of us. He trains with us, and he's got the same chances as anybody else. That last sentence is unbelievable. Max Dowman, 15, has got the same chances as anybody else. And you know, I'm all for it. If you're good enough, you're old enough. It's just, the only thing is, I'm not worried, but I'm wary of his welfare. But other than that, yeah, if you feel he's ready, put him in. Let him play tomorrow. Let him play. You know, top player. What I've noticed though is, I mentioned it, I alluded to it in the last edition podcast, that Miles Lewis Skelly has seemed to have taken him under his wing. You know, kind of big brother. They talk a lot. They kind of chill together. Miles and Ethan, and then Declan Rice, big brother kind of mode. And I like that, you know, it's just kind of assimilating him into the group, making him feel comfortable, making him feel confident to kind of, you know, do what he does best, which is dribble with the ball, twist people up. I'm all for it, man. Big up Max Dowman. On when that conversation with Per was, I would say 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Damn, 2 years ago. He would have been about 13 then. On how Victor Gyökeres stood up to the challenge at Newcastle. I loved it. I absolutely loved how he took it. He went on board, not a single moment when he was showing frustration. I told him that you're going to get some decisions, some, others not. Stand up. You're going to have 2 or 3 players around you in many moments. The ball is in the air and a lot is going to happen. But I loved his reaction. I loved the way he handled the situation emotionally, and also because he was involved in a lot of dangerous moments that he created. He was very much involved in them. It's a pity that he didn't score a goal at the end, because in my opinion, he fully deserved it. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Victor Gyökeres' all-round game, he did all right. His link-up play was good. His hold-up play was good. I felt like he linked up slightly too much for my liking. There were moments where he could have shot, albeit from tighter angles, but that's exactly what I want from him. I want him to be single-minded, greedy to an extent where if you feel you can get a shot off, get one off. But he was kind of passing when he could have potentially shot. Usually his single-minded self would have done so. At Sporting, I'm sure he would definitely have done so. And he would have had license and, you know, he would have been instructed to do so, shoot on sight policy. But all in all, yeah, he got himself about. He's looking fitter by the game. I think every game he's playing, he's looking more and more fit. But with obviously there's more of an emphasis on him because Kai is out. So if he was to go down, we'd have to shuffle things around. But we've got options there. We've got people like Marino, Trossard, and Martinelli that can play there. But ideally, you want Victor to score a few more goals now. I think he's currently on 3 in 6, 3 in 8 overall. But hopefully, if he can get a few more goals over the coming games, you can get to 4s and 5s and 6s going into the international break. On how he's handling the role with Kai out injured. In a really natural, organic way, I would say. He's a really confident boy. His work ethic is incredible. The demands that he puts on himself every single day, it's a joy to work with him. He gives so much to the team and the ceiling is very, very far, but he can still give to the team. So I'm very happy with him. Yeah, so I've already alluded to a lot of the things with Victor. He's doing well. I think in a game against Newcastle, he was in the wars with Malik Thiaw and the likes of Dan Burn as well. He got himself about, moved around, played the others into play. I'd like to see him link up with Eze. I think that's going to be a key partnership going forward. But yeah, also I didn't actually mention that all 3 of his goals in the 2 games he scored them in have been at the Emirates. So our next 2 fixtures in the next 4 days are at the Emirates. Hopefully he can add to that. But after the international break, I'd like to see him score away from home, albeit those games will be in London because we're playing teams like Fulham, Crystal Palace, Al in the month of October, starting tomorrow. On what Eze brings to a central position compared to Odegaard, I think he's got this different quality that he does things that in the book, they're unexpected. When you think he's going to turn right, he goes left. When he thinks that he's going to take another touch, he releases the ball. In his vision, he's a player that can create those magic moments. And at some point, he can steal the ball in a way that not many players can do. Lucky that we have a few of those. But the more we put him in central positions, in those conditions, especially when there's threat around him, we're playing to his strengths. It's okay, so that's Arteta's admission that Eberechi is at his best in the centre of the pitch, between the lines, just behind Gyökeres. I think that's the way forward for us. But then obviously Martin Odegaard's now there. So I like the way they linked up on Sunday. I would like to see more of that tomorrow potentially. But it'll be interesting to see if actually Eze and Odegaard both start in central positions or he goes Odegaard and Eze out wide, despite the statement he's just made. On how he's adapted to life at Arsenal. Very good. Personally, it's a very special character. Someone really easy to get on with, super intelligent. I've been very impressed by how quickly he picks things up, the questions he asks and how smart he is just to navigate through a different environment. The chemistry he's generated with his teammates, the way he's impacting games for the short period he's been with us, I think really positive. Yeah, actually, funnily enough, I didn't mention that. I noticed he and Gabriel have developed a strong bond already. And obviously he knows people like Noni, who he seems to get on really well with, Bukayo, who he seems to get on really well with, Declan Rice as well. And then you've got the young boys in Ethan and Miles. So yeah, he's already known a lot of the players through the years, through playing against Arsenal. But he's really just bedded in really nicely. And I think a lot to do with that is the fact that he's been here before. This is his habitat. He's back home. The players adore him. And I think personally, I think he's one of the leaders in the team. So I just want him to get more and more games, more and more experience in European football, understanding the pace of European football, the differences in what he's used to. And I'm sure after a few games, we're going to see the best of Eberechi Eze for sure. On how to learn from our previous encounters with Olympiacos. Yes, because they have a really good side and they have a really, really good manager, which I've known since I was 13 because he was my coach at that period. And I know how he works. I know how efficient he is in what he does. That's why I'm saying that tomorrow is going to be really tough. Yeah, Olympiacos are a good side. They're used to winning week on week. As I already mentioned, they won 3-2 on Saturday. They're used to being on the front foot, but tomorrow that's not going to be the case. They're going to have to be pragmatic and obviously seize their moments on the break. If they want to have any chance of winning, they're going to have to hang in there. Their goalkeeper's going to have a 10 out of 10 performance if they want to get anything out of the game. But For me, I think it's a case of just being confident, not complacent, and carrying out the tasks in what Arteta has kind of trained for. So if Arteta puts out a strong side, which I fully expect him to do, then there's no reason why we shouldn't and wouldn't pick up 3 points. On what makes our back four so good? Well, one is chemistry. I think there is something about, especially when we talk about centre-back units, that it has to exist, that it has to be a will, a feeling to play for each other and basically to hide each other's weaknesses and promote each other's strengths. And that's an ability that they have between them and they have developed. They like to play with each other. They love each other. And that's a massive thing when you're asking your backline to produce what they are producing at the moment. Well, he's obviously referring to William Saliba and Gabriel. He's mentioned hide each other's weaknesses and promote each other's strengths. Okay, let me try and extrapolate what he means by that. So, I mean, put it this way, when I mention the weaknesses, which I think he's inferring, I'm clutching at straws. But with Gabriel's probably, he's technically not the greatest in the world, but you don't require a centre-back to be technically efficient. Whereas Saliba is technically very good, but the aggression isn't there as much, but you get the aggression from Gabriel. So it's like, that's where the compliment lies. Also with Saliba, you might get one or two lapses in concentration now and again, but usually he makes up for them anyway. Or usually Gabriel will make up for it, or Timber will come across. So that's me clutching at straws, because I don't think there's many weaknesses. And then when you add in Ricardo Calafiori, who is great going forward, but I think this season he's improved immensely defensively. So, and I think that's the main reason why he's been in the team, because he's a threat going forward. There was a point where he actually had the most shots of any player in the Arsenal squad. So yeah, he had an exceptional start to the season, and I think he probably has done enough to keep his place in the team. However, it wouldn't surprise me if he kind of gets a breather with Miles getting an opportunity to come in. But other than that, I think it will be a largely unchanged squad for the game tomorrow evening. Peace.